The change we need in our country is recognising we'll only really make things better when we all come together, when we all work together, when we all join together, when we work out that we're all in this together. That's the change that our country needs. It's the big society.
Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister tell us, how is his big society going?
And I believe probably every single member of this House of Commons spends time in their own constituency encouraging volunteering, encouraging philanthropic giving and wanting people to play a bigger part in a bigger society. I think the whole House is united over it.
Our obligations to each other don't end with paying our taxes and obeying the law. We have a big, strong society, and that's what binds us together.
What volunteering do you do?
I do, golly, what do? I do, that's a really unfair question, cold. But actually the point is...
Well, I think given that we're talking about volunteering and how important it is, that you might have been able to tell me, and not least because in your manifesto it says, quote, our ambition is for every adult in the country to be a member of an active neighbourhood group.
Well, MPs spend their time involved with voluntary groups.
Well, that's part of your job, isn't it? You get paid for that. What else do you do?
Well, we do it 7 days a week, kind of thing. So, I do various things. It's a great question to drop on me.
This Ealing CVS had this brilliant volunteering scheme where they got tens of thousands of volunteers, and NatWe came out of this and said, "It's fantastic. This is the cutting edge of a lot of what community organising is looking to be about. Ministerial seal of approval." Within a month, the funding for that had been cut by central government. That volunteering scheme does no longer exist.
I am one of those people who sees the big society, who can't help but see the big society as a cover for the Conservative cuts, or should I say, the coalition's cuts. It may not have started out like that a few years ago, fair enough, but it's certainly become a way of distracting us all from the coming austerity, and it does shield Cameron, Osborne et al. From the charge that they are, in the words of William Hague via WikiLeaks, the children of Thatcher. It provides them with a very useful rhetoric.
Hi, I'm Kieran. The big society is David Cameron's vision for Britain. He talks about the transference of power from Westminster to local communities, local people taking charge of local services. But the big society seems to ignore young people. So I'm here today to see whether young people know what the big society is and know about the effect it's having on their lives.
The young people that I work with, none of them have any idea what big society actually means, let alone what it means for them. And I think that's the worst part, because it's affecting those young people, and it's affecting people that have not had a right to say what's been going on.
To be honest, I have no idea what the big society is like specifically. Like, obviously I know about my own society and like where we're from and obviously that sort of thing, but I don't know what the big society is.
I've not really heard of it because I don't think it's too relevant for young people.
Well, I don't understand what he means by big. Does he mean, this big? This big? I mean, when does it get big enough for him? No, I don't understand.
I think it's a word David Cameron likes to use to sound like he's being nice to people and not just going to cut loads of money out of the budget.
They shove volunteer work in your face, but I've yet to see any cabinet ministers or the Prime Minister himself taking up any volunteers. They'll say they're busy, but so is the rest of Britain.
Personally, I think that it's a complete con. I think that it's utter bullshit and that it's just a complete cover for the cuts.
The government has scrapped all year-round youth projects and replaced them with a 6-week National Citizen Service scheme. The scheme hopes to encourage young people to volunteer in their local communities, but many will be unable to afford the £100 price tag it takes to join up. So, now that young people know the facts about the National Citizen Service scheme, what do they think?
I don't believe in the NCS project at all. I believe it's too short a time to be able to teach young kids the social skills and the just general life skills that they need to sort of develop their own talents and move forward with their life. I don't think 6 weeks is enough.
But I think it's a way of controlling things as well. In the sense that you can't have this, but you will have this, and we'll control this.
There's a lot of young people out there who would love to volunteer, but just don't have the time. You've got school, you've got expectations, you've got a lot of pressure on you to do well, and at the same time you need to be earning some money. Not everyone can afford to take that time out.
You might do the 2 months, it might be fantastic, you might realise that what you were doing is what you want to pursue as a career and you really enjoyed the experience, but then you're just going to be signing on after that.
With summer camps, it's only in the summer. With a youth club, it's kind of all the time. You go to it all the time.
It's an incredibly awful idea in attempting to promote volunteering by removing one year-long scheme and replacing it with another that you in fact have to pay for. It being a volunteering scheme, again, it's a contradiction in terms.
6 weeks ain't going to be a massive effect on young people. Yeah, they'll be volunteering for a week, 2 weeks. What about those young people that volunteer day in, day out and want to give back and want to be youth workers and kind of want to give back to their community? And cutting out 380 odd million is just a completely stupid sacrifice.
After the riots, members of the Conservative government said that young people were feral and the product of a broken and sick society. As a result, they put more than £10 million into training volunteers to set up scouts and guide groups. But do such uniformed and disciplined groups appeal to young people?
If you're middle class and white, Scouts is for you, but if you're, you know, a young Asian and you don't go join Brownies, I don't think that really sits down too well.
Brownies and Scouts, are you joking? I mean, you can't expect people to come together in a group that is aimed at white middle class people.
Living in, I won't say a multicultural society, but a diverse community these days, it's not something that those young people from ethnic backgrounds and their families and their parents don't really see the Brownies and Scouts as something beneficial, whereas going to the youth club, it's just an everyday sort of, there's a youth club down your road, it's on tonight, just go down, have a laugh.
I don't think me and my friends would join that, maybe several years ago, but even then the focus on Queen Country and almost military-esque services, it's too narrow, it's too Christian.
It's segregating communities and it's making you think that, well, if you don't do this, you're not part of England and you're not part of our big society.
It doesn't really appeal to anyone that I know, even the middle class people that I know, I don't think they'd want to go there at all.
So, from what we've seen today, the big society doesn't appeal to young people. But if they had the ear of David Cameron, what would they tell him to do so that the big society appeals to them?
In an ideal world, I love a society where obviously everyone gets on with one another, but my ideal society is one where the freedom of speech is a freedom of speech, and it's not about being politically correct, and it's about people just getting out there and doing their own thing.
I would ask him to reintroduce EMA, to drop university fees. I would ask him to find somewhere for the youths to go that will be beneficial for them now and in the future.
Well, I think the first thing that you need to do is give young people a voice. I mean, you can't expect young people to, you know, abide by this big society when they're not represented correctly.
I think we need to live in a more fairer capitalist society where people aren't judged on their backgrounds and are just judged as like sort of raw materials, as it were. We're all human at the end of the day, and because of where we come, how we were brought up, bears no difference on our personalities and what we can provide to the big society.
I think it would help if he stopped referring to us as a reckless horde of feral young people, if he actually got out there among young people in his area and his constituency and talked to them, rather than referring to them as this pigeonholed young people. They are all greedy, they are all expectant, they're all selfish. How can he talk about such a wide variety of people in so many areas under such a narrow banner and from a narrow-minded perspective?